You could tell a man about a distance travel. I'm a seeker of knowledge. I'm a nerd. I always want to learn. And whenever you stop learning, you stop growing. When you stop growing, you die.
What up, guys? It's your boy Alu.
Yo, it's your boy Ron.
And we're the Amateur Builders. Today we have a special episode. We finally have our first guest. I know we've been talking about it for a little while now. And we have the one and only
Hans Marshalleck, aka IDMA. I'm Rick Rock on TikTok. Let me shout it out. My name is Hans Marshalleck. I'm founder of Bandwagon and a bunch of other startups. And I'm happy to be here with the Amateur Builders.
Yes. Right? Thank you, Hans. Thank you for coming, Hans. So,
Alright.
A little bit about how me and Hans met. So we work in a co-working space, and Hans always comes with like a bunch of like different ideas, some cool ideas, and he just comes and he just start talking about it, and it's like super interesting. And he's been somebody that I've been coming to, you know, to just to get some advice, and over the time we've been like starting to build a relationship, and it's been a really good relationship because I feel like I see him as a mentor now, because like he be telling me certain things. Sometimes he get on my butt a little bit about certain things.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, man. So a little bit about you, Hans. How did you get started into like, even like the whole thing about like technology? How did you like even like start going about like?
All right, we're gonna go real deep. First and foremost, I'm old. So that means Apple IIe's and bright green screens were my reality.
Okay.
So I'm a coconut, originally from Jamaica. So if you set the scene, my mom worked in the government there. She had a very prominent job.
Okay.
And they had to do the budgets for the country, and they flew down a consultant. And homeboy had Apple IIe, and he'd run the entire budget. At the end of the day, he'd be playing games, you know, text word games. So for those who don't know, you would sit down there and he's like, the org is at the door, what do you want to do? You type in kill or run or flight, and you know, that was the level of the game back then. But it got me into Apple and into, wow, this could be something amazing from way back then. I was like 8 or 9. And fast forward, I came to the United States. I didn't do tech originally. I'm an art minor, so I draw and do all kind of stuff. But they used Macs to produce the school newspaper, so that was my first introduction to that. And then from that, then it was a situation where when I graduated from school, jobs were hard to find in my major, journalism. So I ended up working at...
It still is.
Yeah, journalism is dead. Ended up working at CompUSA, and because of my experience now with the school and school newspaper and using Macs, I was in the Mac section. I went from sales to hardware to fixing, and then software is taking over the world. Long story short, I'm like, I gotta leave hardware, get into software, and then you get into entrepreneurship, and then from entrepreneurship is, dude, you can't code, you gotta learn how, and so now, here we are.
Yeah. Let's go a little bit more back. So I know you worked at Apple for a little while.
Yep.
How was that? Tell us a little bit about the experience.
So, I don't know, I got a picture on my desk says the Greek gods. I would say it was like 2004, 2005. The iPod just came out. Everybody was hyped. So when you were in the subway with the shirt on from Apple, you'd have the spit game. The girls like, hey, can I get an AirPod? Yeah. It was, you know, the wired earphones.
Yeah.
And people walk up to you and ask you stuff, and like a manager's like, yo, don't talk to nobody.
I bet you for like the man when you
we literally were on daily news on the front because it was just the hype thing. So the hype was like super real because we were picked essentially as the geniuses for Soho. So then all the celebrities used to come through.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, Tommy Davidson, you had Don Nelson. I took care of Rosario Dawson.
Yeah.
I didn't even know who she was.
I don't know who that is.
Dude, you all look. She's this beautiful actress, man.
Okay. And
then the girl who's the actress for the King Kong movie.
Okay.
Yeah, it was funny because I was, you know, fixing the computer. She's fine. And the dude side was like, King Kong, King Kong, King Kong. I'm like, oh, King Kong. She's like, yo, that's the actress from King Kong. And the next day, I was like, I saw Rosario. I'm like, Rosario. She's like, who that?
Yeah.
You know? So that was the thing. But yeah, you had all the celebrities used to come through. And back then you had to learn break fix. You had to physically fix the laptops.
Yeah.
It was different. Now they just ship them out and flip them and change them. But it was a great time. But yeah.
How's it like working at Apple shit? Like, cause I know like every time we have a conversation, you always talk about like, the design system of Apple. How did like working at Apple affect sort of like how you go about creating some of like the products that you're building?
So it's more like Apple was in me before I was at Apple. So in order to get there, you have to like drink the Kool-Aid.
It's poetry right there.
Yeah, you have to drink the Kool-Aid and understand the philosophy.
Okay.
So the whole thing is you have to approach things from a design first application. You gotta like sit down, think, meditate, and simplify. Right now, entire computer industry, everything is just too hard.
Mm-hmm.
It requires you to be literate. It requires you to do different things, and not everybody has that.
Yeah.
And Apple's approach is closed, it's different, but the aim of Apple is like they teach you surprise and delight the user.
Mm-hmm.
So you have two jobs. You have to make things as seamless as possible, but then that also has to be seamless in how it feels to you as a person. So for all you out there building, it's not about adding more things, it's about taking away as much as you can.
Making it
and right, and whatever you have, it has to lead to the next step.
Some great advice.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the recent things that's happening. So right now, WeWork is going bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts about that? Because I know we talked about WeWork before, and like, what do you think? What do you think is the biggest reason for them going bankrupt?
The same reason for the majority of the tech industry. So everybody here is brown, and we don't have the cult of personality attached to what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So business models come first. WeWork is simply taking a regular hotel situation where you're renting the rooms out.
Yeah.
But they lied and said it was a technology business. Yeah. So the issue with WeWork is not that you can't have a nice office to rent out to people, but the issue is you built expectations so high that you have this huge amount of debt that's weighing down on people.
Yeah.
And if you are in a business or you're trying to start up, there's no shortcut to success. You have to do the grind.
Yeah.
So if you're in there and you got somebody at WeWork starting, their rent's gonna be high. They may not have customers.
Yeah.
And therefore, if they don't make the donuts, then it's a situation where they're going to crap out after a couple of months.
Yeah.
So what WeWork is saying to its investors, we'll have these high margins, we'll get a whole bunch of people in because our places fly, and in reality, it just follows the norms of the business.
So to that point, do you think there's a way for them to basically rebound from?
I used to say no, but FTX is coming back. It's like you just never know with business. So
how do you think would be the best approach for them, in your opinion, to be?
You can zero everything out and then hope you have the leases and lower the rents and bring people back in slowly.
Or like what could be a pivot? Sorry to interrupt, but what could be like? Do you see any avenues for them pivoting to like something totally different?
It's hard because at the end of the day, it's real estate. And COVID is basically what's killed everything. Because now somebody's like, why do I have to go to WeWork and pay rent? And I got high-speed internet at my house, right? Because before COVID, nothing for nothing, we didn't have, laptops for the kids in the schools and in the hood, right? And then all of a sudden, everybody got one. Yeah. I got 2, 3.
But WeWork, like the whole concept of it was like the network.
I would rather get a distributed team that everybody executes than have a fancy office and I'm paying high rent and I can't get stuff done.
That's true.
Right? There. And the thing is, what COVID has shown me is I can have engineers in Ukraine, Africa, all working together on different time zones, putting out on a project.
Yeah.
Right? WeWork used to do things like have rallies and they used to have hype events, but everything was like localized. But now, the world's changed, man.
Yeah. That's interesting. Let's see. Yeah. Netflix gaming. So Netflix is coming out with a TV sort of like gaming kind of like platform. So they're trying to go more into like the gaming side of things. How do you feel about that? You think that's a good move or?
They have the user base. I still think it's a fad to a degree, but you have to understand Netflix went global before everybody else. They've mastered that before everybody else. And the money that they run is different than everybody else's money.
Talk a little bit more.
They do 2 things. They give people good deals. So if you're in the film industry, Netflix will come and give you a deal. Mm-hmm. So we'll use Bob over here. Let's say he's a prominent comedian or actor. He can get more than he would ever get from anywhere else. The thing is, it goes into their vault, and it doesn't follow the 25-year film cycle that normal films get, where you go to DVD, the release, the theatrical, then you have the licensing to TV and earn money over this time. That doesn't exist with Netflix. And the flip side is they're seeing the metrics. So if Bob's movie is popular and spikes on the streaming, he gets another deal. If he doesn't, then they only lost money. But the difference is there's something called parity pricing. So Netflix in India is different than Netflix in the US in terms of its price. And then what Netflix will also do that's really cool is that they will actually make movies for audiences outside of America, right? So a lot of Bollywood and all that stuff. Now, my problem is the African movies aren't getting the same coin,
even
right?
South Korean too.
Like, so if you flip that into the gaming model, and somebody has a Netflix subscription and they're paying $4 and they say, give me $2 more and you get all these games to play, right? It's a no-lose situation.
What kind of games will be on the TV? Like,
honestly, my philosophy is who cares?
What about family,
at the same time, it's like, who's going to be using it? It's like, who do you... I think, like, if I envision it, I feel like it's gonna be like a family kind of like games or like
social,
or kids, targeting kids. That's where I see it. Like, really being successful.
They did have this feature. I don't know if they still have it, but they did have this feature where you could like look at TV, like whatever show with your family, or like with a friend from I don't know wherever, and you guys are watching it together. I think it was during COVID. I don't know if
I think I heard about it.
They probably took it away now because I don't see that.
I think to really effectively talk about this, we probably get on a plane and travel to different countries that Netflix is at. When I say who cares, it's more like Netflix as a global entity is pulling in millions and millions of dollars per month. And if you're going to offer games, even if it's crappy, their goal is to get the subscription to increase. Their goal is to get the $2 extra. The difference between a basic subscription and a basic plus games. And the thing is, games like a whole new universe, since they're getting the subscription, they can buy games en masse from people who make games. So at that point, who cares? Their volume and their inventory will probably outstrip Apple Arcade in a minute. I'm from another country and I know I'm old. We used to get movies from America on a VHS and they would trade them in between houses. You have roll dude over here. Yo, give me the tape. All right, you give $100 and you get a movie with a tape with 4 movies on it, all pirated, right?
I experienced a little bit of that.
So, but that's how distribution used to work. In Africa, distribution comes, yo, give me the songs. You will buy a thumb drive with all the hits on it. Think of how Netflix is looking at it. Other people are like, hey, we're gonna fight for all the subscriptions in the US. They're like, nah, we're gonna do the entire thing globally. We'll take incremental money depending on the location. And then we just give out the games, whoever wants it in whichever location. So they're never gonna lose, but the flip side.
But it's gonna be profitable though.
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Exclusive rights. So, 100 million subscribers, let's say 50 million subscribers are outside of the US. And a person who has a game will give you a game, Tetris knockoff. And Netflix say, here's 100,000, I get exclusive rights to it. I can use it in perpetuity forever. So he'll eat the 100,000. He doesn't have to worry about, oh, did I get enough individual purchases, right? I got $100,000 off of one game that I had programmed. So you can have that, and I'm gonna build another one, and hopefully I can sell it to you again. So 50 million people are divided by that 100. If the game is popular, it's gonna loop, and it's gonna be cool. You can't lose. And at the end of the day, I'm old, and games right now are just a waste of time. I wish I had all my Mario hours back, So,
Let's talk about AI now. So, Nvidia has just released some new AI chips. How do you feel about the AI trend right now? You think it's something that's just gonna come and go like how the crypto was, or do you think it's gonna be something that's gonna be here for a long time?
AI is probably going to split the world.
Okay.
It's going to cause people to really try to assess whether or not technology is good or bad.
Okay.
So the problems that we have now is it's moving so fast that people can't keep up. So a couple of instances, I saw a video on TikTok 2 days ago, and the dude was like, they were using AI to clone somebody's voice, claim that they were being kidnapped, and then people would transfer money, and it was all fake.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Right? And so the thing is that's happening now.
Yeah.
And people are getting away from checks, getting away from cash. Everything is electronic. And if you don't own your own voice, so voice biometrics is dead because you can clone everything.
Yeah.
You know, all these other technologies are dead. So how do you know anyone is real anymore? So that's one specter. The second thing that's really big is, you know, Hollywood is shut down because of AI, right? So I use subtext, I use stuff to write screenplays. It will write stuff in 30 seconds. It will assist you and make you do better. And the problem is not that it does that, but it's not compensating anybody who gave the AI, the large language model, ability to learn.
Yeah.
And the choice not to compensate is coming directly from the people making the platforms.
Yeah.
So they could use blockchain, they could do things to give attribution. They could put a pool of money and say, hey, if we tapped on all your old screenplays, we'll go back and we'll pay somebody some coin.
Yeah.
They're not doing that, and as a result, there's going to be a war to say, bend the knee and pay us. And the clearest indications of that is what Australia is doing to block all news, and a couple other countries are doing, I think Canada, on Facebook, because they're like, you're just taking our news reports, not compensating the news industry, and just using the material. So you're going to see an extension of that. But I think the bigger thing is, will there be an over-reliance on it, and then everybody's going to be sitting at home eating chips, and robots are going to be doing the work?
Yeah.
You really won't have a sense of place. And we here in it, people on the street walking from day to day, you know, struggling, they don't see how fast it's all coming. And the whole point is, the other thing is, there's not enough people like us, people who are brown, people who are affected by the discrimination in tech, because it's now written in code.
So you talk about people like us. How do you see AI being of good use for people like us? What's the use cases?
It's not the use cases, it's you're building the models without input from Black, brown, and indigenous communities. So your visual models won't take into account brown people walking across the street, the cars will crash into them, that kind of thing. And some of the models, when they're creating speech, they immediately become racist and use racist diatribes.
Yeah, that happened on Twitter, right?
Right.
Twitter,
So these are the things. So the lack of inclusion means that you're overlooked, and then when you're overlooked, it's going to extend into medicine, where you're probably going to create drugs that are not going to match, you know, a certain set of people.
Yeah.
So, you know, my thing is it's mixed. It would be nice to have a pause button on it, but on the flip side, I think we need to answer, and the answer that I perceive is you build a world without AI, or you build a world that AI is used in an open and restrictive way.
I mean, that would be ideal, but it's already been introduced, so it's like,
I don't see anybody doing it. Let me know.
no, I'm not saying like, I'm talking about like AI has already been introduced into the world, so meaning like there's no going backwards.
Yeah,
so
there
now
is.
that we're facing it,
I mean, it's been here for a long time. So it's just
No.
not at this level that it's at.
Well,
And
it's
it's,
just-
So let me break down what I'm saying. Building a world without AI means you give original attribution coin to human creation.
okay.
This is what's not happening. If you record a song and you can videotape you recording a song, it has to be a situation where you put that on a blockchain and said, I recorded that song. And then you put in place the locks on it so that when somebody loops it, samples it, flips it, shakes it, rubs it down, and AIs it, you get paid. You get what I'm saying?
Ownership.
That's what needs to happen across the board for everything, for papers that you write, for art that you create. So there needs to be a superstructure built that literally feeds a system that's rewarding original creators at the time and point of creation. When that's built, then you can get comfortable with sampling, because AI is simply sampling. AI is feeding on things that already pre-existed.
Yeah. So do you think that's like the overall concept of like what people call Web3?
No.
What the thing that you just described, do you think that's like what Web3 should become?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Web3 is a hot mess and will always be a hot mess. They need a different system altogether. And the easiest way for me to describe it is FTX.
Okay.
So you can read a crap ton of articles, you can study it for years. At the end of the day, the difference between Web3 and Web2 is open source software, vetted software, black hat, hacks being able to prove things. Because, you know, Sam Bankman-Fried ran 2 sets of books and pulled the old okey doke. And what happens
he was
is,
going crazy.
but the whole industry can do the exact same
it's
thing.
true.
So you will go and you will code something in Web3, but it's not like it's open source software where other people are vetting what you're coding.
Yeah.
And then you turn to people and say, invest in me, I'm viable, I'm this, I'm that. And they can run and throw you money like Sequoia did, but it won't be a situation where at the end of the day, your code is compromised, you know. Your code has holes, your code has security loops.
There's no way to do web holes.
Right, so that's why, you know, to me there has to be a different approach altogether. Decentralization, there's no privacy in Web3, you can talk about it, but the security models all depend on other people's code. And if you do that, then you're dead.
Yeah.
On that same token, so then like Coinbase is going through its regulatory like hearing and stuff. So if the SEC, if the SEC,
Oh, my bad. Start from zero.
so like Coinbase, you know, it's going through its regulatory hearing and stuff. So what if like Coinbase goes like kaboom, or like the SEC is able to prove like you guys are operating as like brokers and you're listing assets. So therefore, you should go through like, I'm not sure the entire like hearing why they wanted to bring them to court. So maybe like if they go away just as FTX did, what do you think will happen to like the crypto industry? Is it another like big hit to like say like, hey, crypto is like that?
All right. Long story short, you have to probably read the history of money and you have to understand what money is. So before I'm going to answer the Coinbase question, I'm going to walk it back to the Ukraine war. The Ukraine war changed everything because the US sought to sanction Russia and shut down SWIFT and the global systems.
Yeah.
If crypto had been fully in effect before, then you couldn't do any of that. And to a degree, people need to understand North Korea basically funds itself on robbing people through crypto. Crypto is new in the sense that while it has all these idealistic goals of no government and freedom and all that, it's all horseshit, because at the end of the day, nothing that I do or anybody else do is going to compromise the sovereignty of the United States of America.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't have a business that's in the United States of America. So Coinbase is trying, but the issue is, I guess I'm religious too, so the whole thing goes back to greed and money.
Yeah.
And people in crypto come with concepts. Let me do staking and all this other stuff. Let me flip my money 12 ways to Sunday and interact with these other things on level 2 chain, level 3 chains. And at the end of the day, those things are difficult to police from any type of a banking financial structure to prevent the average person from being robbed by, you know, people. So go back to 1928, you guys know, the big crash. So people were going tulips this, tulips that, and selling things that didn't exist. It's the same thing basically in the crypto world where you have ideologies and you have people with good concepts and they're putting code behind it, and some of the things are good. But at the end of the day, if you can't have the levels of regulation that Warren and the rest of the country have that isn't clear, then it's going to be difficult for anything to happen.
Yeah.
So I have Coinbase. I use Coinbase. I use crypto and I buy McDonald's. For real.
Yeah.
Eat for McDonald's. I have the video. And I do it to see, does the technology actually work?
Yeah.
Right? So I got nothing bad to say about Coinbase. But I think the Biden administration and, I think Gensler is his name, everybody there is trying to over-regulate crypto and not pull out the value of crypto. And it's just going to be a rough ride until it finds, something that can work. Because the same time the government fights it, it did approve it like 3 years ago, one. And then they have FedNow and blockchain-based money transfer systems. So you're talking out of two sides of your mouth where it comes to this situation.
Yeah.
But to make everything real, I think crypto and blockchain are important. It's just that we have to change how we're looking back. I think everybody needs to walk back and try to bring value.
Yeah.
So I'm in the travel industry, I'm a travel startup. What happens? If you booked a flight off of a link or a hotel off of a link and somebody's supposed to get a little piece of that. What happens is the hotel who got the coin says, I have to wait till the entire transaction has transpired before I can give you your piece.
Yeah.
And then without blockchain, they look you dead in the eye and say, yo, it never happened. Right? So that's what's happening in reality in business today. So sometimes coupons and incentives and affiliate programs don't actually work in many industries because there's no proof, right? So walking it back means where is a simplified working blockchain that's not going to crap out on you, that's going to simply register these things so I can build a world on top of it.
Yeah.
That's the greatest need. And it's not staking and, rug pulling and, time delimited NFTs that explode in greater value.
Yeah.
We need the basics to build something on. So, and some people are doing it. So,
That's really dope. But you already started talking a little bit about what you're doing, so let's go a little more depth into that. What is bandwagon and what does it mean to you?
I think, really simply, it's like 3 boxes. On the base level, if you don't know anything, this day and age, you can marry what we call distribution with video. So that's basically what Bandwagon tries to do. It tries to be a TikTok that doesn't spy on you, but you can book a flight.
Okay.
So if it's built right and it's going to launch really soon, it will have instant product market fit and it will be a huge unicorn. It means a lot to me because I've stuck with it for 5 years. And
how did you even come up with this idea?
I got married in 2009. I had a destination wedding. As a coconut, I threw a susu and I bought plane tickets for my family.
What's a susu for people who don't know what that is?
Susu is a money circle where you co-invest with people months 1 through 6. You get a lump sum at the beginning of the month.
Yeah.
The person who gets it at the beginning of the month basically is getting an interest-free loan. And a lot of communities, African and Caribbean, Muslim communities, use it to finance big purchases. And it's known in the banking circles as a way of getting starter money.
Yeah.
So I did that. And what we found out is I had to call the airline and then line up everybody's passport, get all their particulars, and get them all on the plane, call everybody, tell them to get there on the time.
Yeah.
And, I worked for Apple before. I'm like, this should be easy.
Yeah.
This is like three minutes in software to write this, right?
Yeah.
So the idea was one person would send something to everybody else and say, book. Well, when I came up with the concept, what we didn't have was the distribution was not codified where everything was easy. So in the airline industry, you have IATA, you had these special codes, you had 4 or 5 vendors, and figuring out which flight was which. If you see a show Amazing Race and they run up to the kind of like, give me the flight to the next thing, and they're like, we have money. Nope, we have, all that used to be specialized knowledge.
Yeah.
Now it can be given to you in a simple API. Most people in America now book with Google Flights, and they're pulling all the information and they're moving it around and making it easy for you to understand.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, why can't Bob? I always pick on Bob, right? Simply just do an invitation, and then send something to somebody, and they be like, "Yo, I want to go wherever Bob's going. Let me book."
Yeah.
And that's essentially what we're doing. So
it's really dope, man. So what has been difficult, like the most difficult?
The whole thing has been hard in one sense, but a startup will grow you. So
That's a bar.
yeah, a startup will grow you. So it's a situation where I started out and I thought I had something, but you don't have something until you have engineering. That's the other bar. You don't have a startup until you have engineering. So I had an idea, and I went to this TV show called Planet of the Apps. I applied for it, didn't get in, went to grad school. And for those of you who do entrepreneurship education, grad school will be indispensable because that gave me the deep dive into the industry. So
what did you go for grad school for?
Entrepreneurship.
Okay.
So shout out to University of Maryland, Tech Entrepreneurship Program,
Shout out to Maryland.
Dr. Green. So after leaving that, then I went to Founder Institute and I went to Startup Bus. But I wouldn't say I had a startup until I went to Startup Bus.
Okay.
So that's like taking a baby and throwing that into the pool.
Is like an incubator, or what is that?
It's a hackathon on wheels.
Okay.
You get on a bus and you build a company in 5 days while driving across America.
Oh, that's a dope idea.
Yeah, it is the scariest thing ever. But for those of you building it, it's refining you by fire. So you either put up or shut up. You have to pull resources. So you be on there and like, let me get 1 million Twitter followers in the next couple of hours.
Yeah.
So you form teams, and some of our people are coding, some people are marketing, and then when the bus stops, everybody's pitching to real investors. And you just do that nonstop. It's like no sleep.
Do they still do that?
Yes, it's functioning. COVID took a pause. We had one last year. It was fabulous. Hopefully it's starting up again. Yeah. So they had a special one for Black entrepreneurs. I tried to get on that one. I ended up on the New York bus.
Okay.
And that's what it was. So I pitched my idea. I pitched Bandwagon, and nobody bought it. And I joined another team. And then I was like, I don't want to do that.
When you pitched Bandwagon, was it the same sort of
same exact idea?
Same exact idea. Even now, is it the same thing that it was back
Right.
then?
The only thing that's changed is distribution has changed, right? And then COVID has changed. So distribution 10x'd it, and then COVID says you got to be resilient, right? Because it's kind of like Uber, you don't own anything.
Yeah.
It's a platform that expands and contracts. But what it does give you is, or what makes the most powerful thing is that if people are suggesting you where they want to go, that now becomes a huge source of data that you can do very well. So all you angels out there who will ever watch this video, that's the secret sauce. At scale, you'll be getting millions of people telling you, I want to go here or there, where if you normally have to book something, there is not that level of rich data.
Yeah.
It's a situation where, when they walk up to Google Flights and see if they can get a flight to Unc's reunion this week, but nobody knows Unc's reunion involves 10 other people from all around America. We will hopefully have that information. COVID was big too, because if it wasn't for COVID, then everything wouldn't have crashed. I wouldn't have to discover other things. So the whole IDMN thing came out of COVID, the whole ability to look into crypto. So I'm a founder influencer. It's a different kind of founder. So what I try to do is build startups in real life and have people follow along. So my concept was to take the whole thing of idea generation and then see if I could go through it and then help other people simplify what they're doing. So
Sounds very similar to what we're doing at Amateur.
well, it's different between an idea and an actual building. So
Yes.
yeah, the whole thing is I would hand off my portion and we're like, yo, let's get cracking.
Yeah. So this is personal conversations that me and Hans been having sometimes. It talks about like creating a system. So what is your system as a startup founder? Like how do you organize your day? How do you organize your ideas? Especially somebody like you who has a bunch of ideas. How do you go about like creating a system for yourself?
I think the first thing had to do with building you as the founder, and that came through attending Founder Gym with Mandela Schumacher, and she had a special program for building the founder. So you have to reorient yourself if you're going to do entrepreneurship, for mental health, for self-care, for time blocking and time management. If you don't do those things, you're gonna crash and burn.
Yeah. I know I experienced that. I was having a competition with him, and then I was telling him like I was working like 6-7 days a week. He was like, bro, sit your ass down and create a system for yourself and just like spend some time with family because you definitely deserve that.
So here's the other big thing, workshop and business opportunities. I did that course. It's a 12-week course in teaching you how to run a business.
Yeah.
It still exists, wego.org. I graduated. My idea back then was to do a pink Apple store and sell a nice, beautiful bag alongside your laptop.
Mm-hmm.
And Apple basically built out their Apple stores in Sherlock. But they teach you the only 2 things you'll ever need to know. So this is the bar. Whenever you have anything, you either have a business or a hobby.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to make sure at the end of the month, the number of things that you are producing and selling equals 1 penny over your costs.
Okay.
If it's 1 penny over, let's take beef patties. You sell 100 beef patties and you're able to zero out the cost of 100 beef patties on that sale of the 100, you have a business. If you sold that 100 and you're still at a loss, you have a hobby.
Okay.
Hobbies are expensive, so you can spend your life forever on a hobby. And trust me, I have tons of hobbies. So hobbies can become businesses with serendipity and timing, but until you get that through your skull, a lot of people go into business with hobbies that they think they can turn into businesses.
Yeah.
And then they don't have the marketing, or they don't have the taxes, or they don't have all the implements, and they crash and burn.
Yeah.
And that applies across everything you're doing. So if I didn't go to WeWork, I wouldn't know that. And if I didn't go through Mandela's program, the next thing that was pivotal in my development was Sean Blank and everything he does with what's called a focus course.
Yeah.
And I highly recommend that to everybody.
Yeah. It's really dope.
If you don't do that, you won't understand. So then it goes from there to getting a flow. So for me, they have different things to allow you to corral all your ideas together, and I walked it back. So I just use Apple Notes primarily for everything. So it's from paper to Apple Notes, from Apple Notes to Notion, and then from Notion to all the different platforms. And that's basically it. So
it's really simple, but at the same time, it's very efficient. Because I've basically sort of like implemented the same kind of like concept. And I see like my productivity go like way up. I feel like way more organized. I know like what my things are. It just clears your head. You can think a lot more clearly. Do you have any questions for Hans, Ron? I know you haven't like spoken a lot.
Yeah, sorry. Because I know I will know Hans more, so I'd rather like you got the conversation. But in terms of like what's next for you, whether personal or professional, and besides like bandwagon, what is like some of your next goals you have to accomplish?
So the biggest thing I want to do was to release a film on September 1st.
Oh, word?
Yeah, it's called Jubilee and the Amazing Startups. So Black funders get no money, and I can't emphasize that enough. So
a little bit louder.
We get no money. And I've been to everything from parties, from information. I've been, top of all the big buildings, shaking hands, and you got a good idea, and nothing ever happens. And I felt that the journey that I took so far has been very interesting. But I felt if I make the movie, I could probably self-distribute the movie and fund whatever I want to do. So that's the crazy idea. Make a film, distribute the film, and use the film to build a business. So
what's the film gonna be? Is it like about your journey, or
it's a combination of a journey and a combination of these amazing ideas.
Okay.
And it's more to say Black founders have amazing ideas and they simply don't get funded.
Yeah.
And to put the challenge, because once the idea is out there, who can turn back against the idea?
Yeah.
And you gotta understand, we are at a pivotal time in American history from the standpoint where everything is up for grabs.
Yeah.
He who codes builds worlds. We can build our own worlds, we can build our own systems, we don't have to rely on anyone for anything. And it's a situation where nothing for nothing, people are looking down on our diaspora, even though we have the talent and we just don't have the resources. So for me, it's all about, can you build something that will lift Africa and Latin and the Middle East up from where it is right now? And
Yeah.
I honestly think I have the sauce. I think the ideas I have are worth trillions of dollars.
So you want to share like?
I don't know if you're ready.
I'm always ready, man.
All right, so the core part of my idea is to get a super app for Black people. And even though it's for Black people, it's built for everyone.
Yeah.
Ray can't go to the party or fly the plane because he got 2 priors and the baby moms, and if he goes through TSA security, he's gonna get flagged. So for me, there's a lot of things that our people don't do because people would get stopped or harassed or something.
Mm-hmm.
So what if you built a mechanism where you could just flow, and because you're in something that makes you safe, everything is all right.
Yeah.
So for me, the super app is not one app, it's a bunch of apps. And it's people who are aligned to a specific philosophy of doing things, which will protect the diaspora.
Yeah.
And be in a situation where we would really be able to, protect our own.
Yeah.
So,
there's somebody doing something very interesting. Bob, everybody keeps referring to Bob, but Bob talked about this. It's called Afropolitan. So Afropolitan is trying to create sort of like this virtual society where it's exactly what you explained, but like more of like a digital society for Black people.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's a really innovative idea. I think it's something that's definitely needed, and I'm looking forward to seeing like where it goes.
Yeah.
Thank you really so much for coming on the podcast and like just giving us your perspective on like entrepreneurship and tech. I think it was pretty cool. You actually like making me wonder now, like, man, I need like some better ideas. Or just like maybe think more or brainstorm more on like my
The only thing I'll say is that everybody needs the capacity to fail. That's all that we need.
Yeah.
And what we're not trying, I think, as a people. I think it's too hard. And in some ways, yes, it is, but in other ways, the only way you will succeed is through failure.
Yeah.
So my thing is, if you have an idea or a concept or something that you want to do, get up, try it anyway. I remember I went to some conference and I met Craig Newmark, who made Craigslist, and I'm like, yo, how do you make Craigslist? He's like, yo, what have you got? I was like, just do it.
Yeah.
Like literally, I printed out the email, I put it up to inspire me to say, yo, just do it. Just get off your butt and do it. And so,
it's the model of this podcast. I've been telling you guys all the time, like, just
do it.
Just do it, man.
And I think the next thing y'all should do is create a platform where if anybody wants to just do it, yo, let's all meet up and do it in real time once hour, help each other out.
It's coming soon.
Yeah, it's coming soon. So it's not about money, it's not about anything else, it's just trying. Because if everybody takes lumps and everybody can learn from each other.
Exactly. I was literally having this conversation with somebody today. I was telling him, like, sometimes you just have to build things just to build it. Like once you're in the midst of building certain things, you learn so much about yourself. You just learn a lot of different things. So just like sometimes you gotta take yourself out of like your comfort zone and put yourself out there. And I guess he wasn't trying to hear all of that, but sometimes you just need to tell you gotta tell people certain things, and then eventually they come to it and they start understanding what you was telling them. So, like he said, start building, guys. And that's pretty much the end of today's podcast. Thank you, Hans, once more for coming today.
It's my pleasure.
Peace.